Welcome to PR Like a Boss, the podcast where we sip truth, spill strategy, and chat with the real movers in media, beauty, and brand building. I'm your host, Pats, and today's guest, honestly, you're in for a treat. She is the definition of grit meets grace. From the beauty counter to the C-suite, she's led some of the most iconic brands in the wellness world, including Urban Retreat and Aromatherapy Associates. She champions intuition, real leadership, talent spotting, and wellness that comes from the inside, not just the packaging. It's the brilliant, the trailblazing Tracey Woodward. Tracey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. That was such an introduction. I feel very humbled, and it's great to be here. You never think of yourself in any sense of that type of introduction. I'm just fortunate enough to be doing what I love to do, and so thank you. It means a lot.
Oh, well, I'm so excited to have you here, and thank you for joining me, honestly. I know you're very, very busy and, time is precious.
Yeah, well, always a joy, Patricia. We go back a long way.
We do. And before we even started recording, I was trying to rack my brains and try and remember the time that I first met you. And it was an interview for Urban Retreats, which I then decided not to pursue after you offered me the job and then go to Estee Lauder. So that was many, many moons ago.
You decided to stick with the commerciality rather than rather than the creative. Yeah.
So you left school with no qualifications and ended up leading global beauty brands. I mean, look, that journey is incredible. What role did instinct and being visible play in your eyes?
First of all, I never went to school. I did probably 2 years of formal education in my entire life because I was a premature baby, born to a teenage woman and a very sickly child because I was born at 26 weeks. So my life was very unique and very different in comparison to other people's lives. But actually, when you're living it, you don't realize because you don't make any comparisons. You become very insular. But, I've had a crazy upbringing and a lot of people know about that. And as you know, I'm writing a book, part fact, part fiction. But what I always saw growing up as a young woman in the 70s and the 80s were all these fabulous beauty consultants in department stores. And I just thought that would be my escape from the life that I was living, that, the life that I'd kind of endured to date. And so I always used to say to my mum, that's what I'm going to do. And she'd say, if you think you can, you will. And if you think you can't, you're right. So I just waited for an opportunity. And one day an opportunity came up with Clinique. More than 500 women being interviewed at the Westbury Hotel, just off of Bond Street, when you could park on Bond Street. But when it was a very different place than it is today. This was the 80s, and got my first job on a counter and knew nothing about commission sheets or order forms or stock management. But really, well, I understood stock management because I was with a cash and carry before then. But I really understood that I love to connect with people. And growing up, and certainly through my early days in beauty, I learnt about life through customers, through customers' experiences. And I saw women, all types of women living all different lives. Some were coming in for, a lipstick, and others were coming in for a bottle of aromatics elixir. And the others were just, there was no holding back. They wanted the lot. And so I learnt through my colleagues, through my peers, and through the customer. And that's really what kickstarted my love of beauty, that I could make somebody feel good about themselves just by doing their makeup. Because in those days, there wasn't makeup artists per se. We were all trained in makeup application. I used to wear 8 different eyeshadows in those days. It's unheard of now, but that's just, well, I don't know, maybe it's coming back. But, it was fun, and it just made me more and more curious. And the more I saw how other people lived, the more inspired I was to to reshape my life really and learn as I went. And I had some brilliant mentors. I was very fortunate to have the likes of Hilary Dart, Caroline Neville, Daniela Rinaldi, endless support of people that were there to Susanna Taylor, that were there to really help me understand the next steps of my career and what I should be doing. It was actually Shelley Smythe that gave me the job. And she said, you've got some fire in your belly. And of course, if she knew about my real life that I was living at that point, she'd understand why. But it paid off. And I just worked extremely hard. Every job that I got, I had to work harder than the person that, would have just applied for it and secured it because I knew nothing about it. So, I had to learn how to read a P&L from my clerk at
Mm.
Orders department store, showed me how to read it because I was told that every additional 1% gross profit I generated, I would get an additional 1% bonus. I mean, that made me get my, arse into gear really and learn as much as possible. So I think that there's no shame in learning on the job, and enthusiasm will always, and a desire to learn and a desire to commit, and to be really, really present will always win over any other kind of qualification, in my opinion.
And also, I think, in terms of that learning
Mm,
aspect, even now, it's a progression throughout the years of the career, life in
mm,
general. It's always better to be in that state of mind of
yeah.
wanting to learn
Open to
more.
it.
Mm,
Open to it. If you're open to it, then you will progress. And if you close down, you can only meet people as far as they're prepared to go in their knowledge, in their commitment, in their enthusiasm. But what we have to remind people is it's okay to not know what you don't know. And some of it you have to feel, and some of it you have to learn, and some of it you have to experience.
yeah, and ask
But
questions.
yeah, and don't be ashamed of failure. Know that failure is the fastest way to success. Because what happens is you get really, unless you're a bit silly, you get really, really good at failing fast and failing cheaply. And I don't just mean financially, I mean with your time,
I think,
emotionally.
but there's also the fear of failing and that feeling of being overwhelmed, which stops one from actually progressing.
Yeah, it's a very British thing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Failing is not allowed. It's a very British thing, and I think
Mm,
it's quite a whole stiff upper lip thing. Yeah, it's all well and good, but the fact of the matter is that our bodies are built to learn and engage and inquire, and they improve when we do that, whether that's physically, emotionally, or mentally. When we expand our thinking, we become more relaxed as human beings. When we narrow our vision, our thinking, we scare the life out of ourselves every single day.
yeah.
So you've got to expand your thinking to be able to open up your personality, and it's really, really important, I think, in the industry that we're in, that need people to connect more than ever. It scares me a bit now because I think that we're moving away from that. We're kind of saying, okay, so what person can we take out and how can we put AI in to make that better? When actually, emotional connection and humility and kindness and support is what sells everything in this world.
Mm,
It's that tactile, heart based delivery that connects. That's what we're all about, energies. I do fear for our industry where we think that we can bring technology in to replace everything when the beauty industry is about human connection. It's about the
yeah,
power of touch. It's about
100%.
recognizing someone's needs. It's about really, really listening to
Hmm.
what somebody wants and needs. So I think that, yeah, and I've just, spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally been on that path my entire life. I am a hyper vigilant person because of the way that I was brought up. So
Mm.
I see things ahead probably more so than others. I mean, I was talking about wellness, as you know, 17, 18 years ago. So I think that it's very interesting times.
Yeah, well, that really takes me nicely onto my next question. I mean, you do talk a lot about true wellness and have done for many years, and it's beyond the buzzwords. What does real wellness mean to you, and how can brands communicate it without sounding performative or overpolished?
I think that what the human being is looking for is connection and education, and being honest about not knowing what you don't know. I think that we've influencers are always going to be there. Celebrity is always going to be there. And that aspiration to be like them, look like them, feel like them, have their life is always going to be there. It's, it's as good as it gets for some individuals. It really is. But the fact of the matter is that the more you take care of yourself and the more products that are there and you use them. So if you're applying a lipstick, a color, it's about giving you confidence. It's about lifting your mood. And so I think that there's a lot of emotional and mental positioning around that we've kind of lost. But I use makeup and products to get myself ready for the day. I use them as a motivational tool. And when I take them off, I'm almost cleansing the day off and kind of, chucking the face cloth in the washing machine. But I think that that's the thing that we're forgetting, that we don't all want to look like everybody else. We don't all necessarily want to feel like everybody else, but we do want to be a reflection of self-confidence, high self-esteem, and be part of the community. And I think that brands need to recognize that in a way that they have to be authentic and recognize who their consumer is and talk to them appropriately, and not go fishing for that. There's billions of people in the world. You don't need all of them. You just need some of them. And what does that
Yeah.
look like? And
Yeah.
actually, and have purposeful products, the brands that I work with, we're not all about chucking product out there all of the time. It's to service a need or to capture a demographic, or to expand the brand. But there isn't, I don't. For example, Dr. Levy is, the skincare brand that I'm fortunate enough to be part of that team, and they're a brilliant team. But we don't have 200 products. We don't even have 20 products. And what we believe in is actually protecting the mantle and the health of the skin. It's our purpose, and not to kind of strip and encourage the skin to repair itself. And I think that that's a really good strap line for the industry. Don't damage to repair. Just
Mm-hmm.
repair, 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 restore, support, inspire,
I love
because
that.
that's what we're about.
Yeah. Well, you've worked alongside some huge beauty names. What's one mistake you see founders or brands making when they're trying to get media attention?
When they're trying to get media
Mm.
attention is just talking to everybody. Yeah. Know who your audience is. And actually, I think one of the things that I'm seeing now, and it should be challenged, is that this lack of desire to connect humanly. So
Mm.
I think that, I think that PR is fighting to hold its stake in the ground right now. But actually, human connection is everything. These musing moments where you sit down 20 people around a table and you get them to talk to each other and inspire each other and support each other is very, very powerful. It's also very, very enriching in a time when the human being on the planet is probably the loneliest they've ever been. The comparisons they make are on social media. That's not real. And also it's a bit like a text message, right? When
Mm.
you get a text message and I get a text message, we will read that completely differently. We will read that based on how we feel about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
what we think that person is trying to say. And if we're insecure within ourselves, that's going to be a pretty poor message. That's what we're seeing on social media when we don't have the confidence or the courage. And actually, what I believe is that PR, and that connection through brand ambassadors and support is essential in our industry. We are a touchy-feely industry. We want to belong. The consumer wants to belong with us somewhere along the journey, whether that's at 15, whether that's at 25, whether that's at 35, whether it's at 65, which is why we had such a great time at M&S, because we brought back into M&S all the things, and they're still doing it today, that the 50-plus woman loved when she bought them, in Harvey Nichols or House of Fraser or Debenhams or Space and Cave. And
Mm.
so that whole kind of philosophy, I think, is never forget who your customer is, and know that if you're a founder and you've been around for a long time, your customer will be growing with you. They'll be growing with you because they've bought into your brand, your ethos, your philosophy. So don't suddenly think, well, actually, because we've got a load of 25-year-olds, but we've been going for 40 years, that we should just stay, we should chase those 40-year-olds. Yes, you need to support all levels of the community, but don't forget what the heart of what you created and why you created it stands for.
Yeah, I feel that that's also an important factor when you see founder brands being acquired by bigger businesses and they lose their way a little bit because they're
Because they haven't done
focusing
it.
on the product and churning out, and it loses that realness of how it all started
They
in the
haven't
first
had to
place.
bootstrap. They haven't had to bootstrap. They haven't had to struggle. They haven't had to, go out there and really fight for it. And the thing is that if you're a customer of a brand, you know as much about the founder as you do about the product. I don't care what anybody
Hmm.
says, they do. And they're rooting for you. When I look back at let's use Liz Earle as an example. They were rooting for Liz, and Kim behind the scenes all the way. If I look
Hmm.
at Horst Ruckelbacher at Aveda, rooting for him. He stood for something. Marcia Kilgore at Bliss, you know, the LMS team, when you stand for something, when you're relevant to your consumer, you have to maintain that relationship. Otherwise, people just, you do things in life through two paths, desperation or inspiration. And a
Mm.
beauty product brings a lot of inspiration to the consumer. And it also makes them feel like they are supporting and giving, and they're a fan and they're engaged. And, I mean, again, let's take Caroline Hirons as an example, building a great community, right? A different type of community, a great community all the time. And her customer wants to see her and her team win.
Yeah, I couldn't agree
Never
more.
underestimate the power of your fans and supporters, your purchasers.
Oh,
And if you
definitely.
betray them, they'll leave you.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's how it works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Um, for any founder listening who wants to build that credibility and that community and not just, rack up those followers, what's your advice?
Talk to your customer, build a
Mm.
relationship, know who they are, identify their demographic, know what they like to do socially, know where they like to shop, know how they feel about themselves physically, what hero products that they buy into. That will be visible. If you're a skincare brand and you can see what's being sold, they're buying that for a reason. If you're Legology, for example, people buying into Kate's brand, that's for a reason. James Reed, his new tan product, that's for a reason. So know that, the consumer, when Nikki Minaj created Space NK, it was for a reason. Know what that reason is and keep inspecting what you expect from your consumer. It's a two-way street.
Mm,
It's a two-way street. And if you just keep putting things out there and they don't understand your reason why, then why should they spend their hard-earned cash on that product? Because that
yeah.
might be as good as it gets for somebody. They might not have the car and the house and the holidays and the clothes and all the things that they want, but they can put on a fantastic, you know, Charlotte Tilbury bitch perfect lipstick and feel like $1 million. Never underestimate the power of that.
Yeah, that's a really insightful tip, I think. You have a reputation for spotting talent early. How do you personally identify that it factor in a founder or brand? Like, what tells you they're going to cut through the noise?
I think that the reason why I've become good at that, well practiced, is because I've always tried to help. And you'll know from my time at Urban Retreat, we had, a big bay that we dedicated to up and coming brands
Mm.
and people. And I would always, spend time with them. And when I first joined the board of Cosmetic Executive Women, I was one of the main mentors and I would give those brands shelf space. And I've always been curious about people. Therefore, I've given people my time. People call me a super connector because I've got a brilliant address book over the years. But those are people that I've met and I've believed in and I've trusted and I've helped. And that's been reciprocated. It works both ways.
Mm,
And I think that what happens is when you take that approach, people just seek you out because they know that if you're giving them time, it's because you're interested in them. It's a genuine connection, and you want to help. So yeah, when someone says, "I'm thinking about changing my job, can I have a cup of tea with you?" And I used to do a lot more of it than I do today. To be honest, I think that the being diagnosed with the cancer in 2023 and then having to invest more time in myself and the fact that I'm almost 60 now and doing other things, I do less of it, but I
mm,
still try to do it because we just learn so much about people, and we learn so much about why someone wants to leave there or go here or set that up or create that effort. And the more you know about that, um, the more of a feeling you get for the industry. You know, people are the biggest part of our industry. And so if we don't help the people, how are they going to help others?
Yeah, that's so true. Look, and you have this amazing energy about yourself. It's almost magnetic.
I have to thank Deepak Chopra for that. He taught me how to meditate. So yeah, I do that every morning. Yeah, thank God. Pretty much keeps you sane.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah,
You're known as a mentor, a
yeah.
motivator, and a magnet for talent. What's your approach to elevating others and leading with heart?
I think that what you have to do is to not necessarily know what the individual's end game is, but
Mm,
where their aspirations sit, what that they want to achieve. So one of the things that I've always said when I've joined a new company, if you don't like working with me and you don't feel like you're going to fit into the environment that we're about to reshape and change, whether that's, I remember I've always run companies on a shoestring, right? The ones that have no money seem to be attracted to me, and I seem to be attracted to them. Maybe it's due to my childhood where, I went without food. I don't know. Maybe it's that lack that I kind of find um, really inspiring, because if you can do it with basically limited funds, but really, really great people, the rewards and the success is way more exciting. But I've always said to them, if you're not happy, if you wake up in the morning, you're not happy with what you're doing, tell me. This is not, I'm not going to judge you for that. I'll help you find something that suits you, that's better for you, that you can succeed in. Because ultimately, if you help people thrive, and not just survive their jobs, and open their eyes to different ways of thinking and give them opportunities to succeed whilst, standing close by, it changes how people think, and you give them permission to grow and expand their thinking. And that's the big squeeze, I suppose, in a corporate world, because
mm.
you become a puzzle piece in their puzzle. Whereas, when you're doing something grassroots, shoestringed, bootstrapped, however you want to call it, you have to create the path. And at times I've had to recreate paths for brands time and time again, because that's what's led to success. And you want people that have that lateral thinking and that ability. And, it works both ways. And some people that are in the corporate world have the ability to do that. It's just safe to stay in that environment. I mean, you are an example of that, right? That you
Yeah.
you liked that discipline, that team, that process, that, all of those elements. And then suddenly you were like, okay, I'm off now. I'm ready. I'm going to do the things that I want to do and how I want to do them. And I think that I would say to anybody that's thinking about their career, don't just think about the money. Easier said than done, I know, for most. But I promise you that better things sit outside of that thinking.
Yeah, definitely.
Did
But
that answer your question?
it did, yeah. But also from that perspective, there's a lot of fear that can overwhelm somebody when
Yeah.
switching, especially from a corporate environment into, self-employment, freelancing. It's the unknown.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you actually don't know where you're going to get your next paycheck from. I always admire those that jump ship, as it were,
Mm.
because it
Oh,
is difficult, and it's definitely a career change for sure.
yeah. Yeah. And it's a change of thinking as well,
Mm,
because actually, we all have an element of hustler in us. We'll all find a way to make the ends meet. But I think that, fortune favors the brave. For the
yeah.
people that want to kind of do something differently, when? That's all you have to ask yourself. When, why, how,
Hmm.
and what will it be?
Yeah. What does that look like?
Yeah. What does it
Yeah.
look like to you? Because you can shape that, but it does take courage. But a courageous person lives a great life.
Mm. That's beautiful. You often speak about self care beyond skincare.
Yeah.
How does that message land in an industry that can sometimes feel really obsessed with aesthetics?
Yeah, well, I think that what we've got is, we've got the designer human being, right? So that where everything is perfection. But actually, the best time to look in the mirror is not when you've got all of your makeup on, but when you have no makeup on. It's about stripping yourself back. I think that for me, great skin comes from great gut health and
Yeah.
sleep and movement. And, again, I've been in one industry for 40 years, but I've stepped into the wellness side. And I know that if I look at myself 20 years ago and I look at myself now, there's been lots of differences. To how I look. Certainly, I probably look better now than I did then because I've added self care practices into, how I want to look and feel. And I think that the biggest challenge that we have now is that we've got the merging, by
Mm.
2027, I think it's trillions that the wellness industry will be worth, and it will still just be billions for the beauty industry. So they're going to have to find a way to merge the two, and longevity and vitality. And I think that what we'll see is people stripping back what they use, how much of it they use. Not everybody, because
Mm.
the same way that people will be happy to eat ultra processed foods. That is going to continue because that's about affordability, that's about education, that's about understanding, that's about it's as good as it gets. But there's going to be people that are going to be a bit more considered because they want quality, not just at the beginning of their life, but at the end of their lives. I'm two-thirds of the way through. So, I'm in my October years. But, the fact of the matter is that it's it's going to be a two-way street. But I think that it's very easy to look better when you feel good inside. And I'm glad that there is an industry that is leading that process, and we're not covering up everything as we used to, especially women.
Mm.
We would hide behind our lipstick. I'm writing a book, but growing up as a child, I remember my mum applying foundation and makeup to cover up the bruises on her face. She was hiding a lot of stuff, and I think that that's what we do. And I hope that we see through our industry that we can give people the confidence to be self-accepting of who they are. It scares me that we're seeing so many young people having Botox and fillers now and all the aesthetics of products, when actually if they just looked at what they were eating, their skin would be brighter, they'd be more vibrant, they'd have more energy. But it's a process, and actually the wealthy are making it very, very trend driven to lean into fitness. And we're seeing a high increase in young adults training and younger families taking their 6-year-olds for a run. I mean, my nephew can run, 5 kilometers in 27 minutes. So, it's really, really interesting times, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Tracy, rapid fire round. I'm going to give you PR or wellness ideas, and you tell me whether we spin it or bin it. Ready?
Yeah.
Number one, a collagen infused SPF candle. What are we doing?
Bin.
Bin
Definitely
it.
bin.
We do not
Definitely
like
bin
that
it.
one.
Yeah, we do not like that one. Yeah.
How about a CEO posting their therapy sessions on TikTok?
No way. I mean, that's asking for trouble, asking for trouble. I think that a CEO talking about their journey and what it takes, again, inspiring. I think when you start to bring your therapy to the table, it's more about desperation than inspiration.
How about manifestation journaling included in corporate onboarding packs?
I think for people to be able to create their own personal, emotional, physical, mental well-being path to success is the key to success. So whilst I wouldn't necessarily call it manifestation, I would call it, where do you want to land? You're here now, but where do you want to be? And as soon as you write things down and you share it with other individuals, you open the doors to opportunities, because people don't know what you're thinking unless you tell them. So for me, I learned to read and write at 15, and then I think there was a thing like Noel Edmonds did a thing called, he was talking about manifestation then. This is like the 80s, right? And Mr. Blobby. And for those that are not familiar with that, Google it. I'm not being offensive.
I remember Mr.
Yeah.
Blobby.
And from that, I picked up that I was going to create a cosmic shopping list of all the things that I wanted to achieve and do, and I still do that list today. And I freely talk about it. Again, by nature, human beings want to help others. So if someone can help you achieve your goal, they will absolutely support you in the process. Never ever be embarrassed, ashamed, or scared of sharing with anybody where you want to be.
Yeah, I love that. How about brands handwriting thank you notes to journalists?
Oh
Spin
my
it
God.
or bin it? Does that even happen anymore?
Bin it. I think it should happen. I used to do it all the time. I used to do
Same.
it all the time. And it's so powerful and it's so welcomed. We all need little notes of goodness.
Oh,
So,
yes.
if you can't say anything nice, then don't say anything at all.
Yeah. Hiring a psychic as part of your brand advisory board.
Um, uh, it's been done.
It
I
has
can
been done,
tell you,
hasn't it?
yeah, I can tell you it's been done. I'm a big believer in energy readers. So I think that, you need the right energy for success. So I wouldn't say, bin it. But I'd say if you think that way, spin it.
Love it. How about a CBD bath bombs, but for dogs?
I think that the poor dogs that have to look after all of us crazy human beings need something restorative. So I might even make them some CBD gummies.
I love that.
A CBD bone, that's what I think. Forget the bath bomb.
Oh, well, can I have your gummy recipe? Oh, before we wrap up, if you could wave a little wand and make founders do one PR move more often, what would it be?
Be grateful for your PR. They are your fans, they are your supporters, they are your spreaders of good news, great stories. I think that one of the things is because PR is very hard to measure,
Mhm.
right? So people think that it's not a valuable item to have. But I tell you, they are the best cheerleaders in the world. So if they tell lots of people, they wear your badge with pride and other brands. They connect, they bring together events, and they make people that attend your brand's activities feel good about being there. That's enriching, it's powerful, it's positive. And the beauty industry need people that make people sit down and take note. And that's what PR does.
I love that. Beautifully put. Tracey, this has been such a joy. You've been so generous with your time, honest, insightful, and this episode, I feel like it's been packed full of goodness and wisdom. Where can people connect with you?
They can follow me on Instagram. I'm not on LinkedIn as much as I used to be because of, the different things that I'm doing, but I'm always on Instagram. And if there's anybody that wants to meet for a cup of tea, save it till the new year because by then I would have hopefully had my first draft ready of my book. But it's always a joy to meet people. It's always a joy to discuss an industry that has supported me wholeheartedly for the last 40 years. I'm grateful to be in it and I'm proud of it. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share a small conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. And to everyone listening, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, give a 5-star rating, and share this episode. It helps the show reach amazing listeners like you. And don't forget, if you're ready to elevate your PR game, check out my e-course, PR Like a Boss. It's packed with actionable tips to help you get noticed and stand out. The link is in the show notes. Join me next time for more conversations with my female powerhouses. Until then, keep pushing boundaries and PRing like a boss.